Hello everyone. Here we are for another episode of Thought on Education, where we interview the dignitaries of various colleges. This session is to fulfill the gap between the higher management and the students. Here we have the principal of Narayana Engineering College from Gudu. His name is Ravi Prasad sir. Hi sir, it's good to have you here.
Good morning.
Sir, can you tell a brief about yourself so that students will get to know more about you?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Ravi Prasad. I did my vocational in electrical wiring and contracting, and then I did my diploma in electrical and electronics engineering. Then I did my bachelor of engineering in electrical and electronics engineering. Then I did my master in MTech in power electronics and ASIC design from MNNIT Allahabad. Then I did my power electronics PhD in optimal sizing of PV array in electrical engineering department of MNNIT Allahabad. Now it's called as Prayagraj. I'm working for Narayana Engineering College for the past 2 decades. Before coming into academics, I worked as an engineer in power plant. So that's all about me.
Yes, sir. That's a good thing, sir. Sir, you have been working as an education leader for so long. So, what are your mission and vision, particularly you and of your college, Narayana Engineering College?
Vision is we always try to keep every person, every organization must keep a very long-term vision, and we're also doing the same. We want to be one among the premier institutions of the country in producing ethically strong and technically sound engineers and managers to serve the nation. So this is our vision. And to achieve that vision, our mission is we're providing sacred environment for both students and teachers to acquire the knowledge through innovative and professional approach and utilize it for the welfare of mankind. So this is what our vision and mission is. We're successful for the past 20 years because of our vision and mission.
So, what do you think are the main roles and responsibilities of an educational leader like you?
Narayana Engineering College is promoting positive outcomes for our students and families in this region. For the past 20 years, we transformed lives of thousands of students since 2001 by making them competent engineers and managers so they can fight with any other engineering graduate or management PG student from metropolitans. We equip them with necessary skills. So we have built the capacity. So if we want to make the students competent, we have to build the capacity. Over these 40 years, Narayana Educational Group is 40 years old, 44 years old. So Narayana Engineering College is 21 years old. So approximately, we build this capacity. If we want to make students competent, we must have capacity. We build this capacity over years by mastering outcome-based education, OBE. So we are the first to adopt student-centric teaching and learning methodology in this region. So we have a very planned course delivery mechanism. We have micro-scheduled session plan for each and every subject. So we use ICT, Internet Communication Technology, for delivering the lectures. It will help, it gives good illustration about the subject. It will help the student to grasp easily, especially from remote and rural areas. So we have well-planned continuous internal assessment to achieve the objectives and goals. So our students are always kept in track, in groove in academics. So until and unless you are not good in academics, co-curricular and extracurricular activities, you are not going to be able to compete with global level. Now it's all globalization. We must compete at not at national level but global level.
Okay, sir, that's a good answer. Sir, you are the principal of Narayana Engineering College, Gudu. What are the
Yeah.
checkpoints you maintain on daily basis and also in the long run so that you can provide the best of yourself and also of the college?
Yep. It's because every day is not same, but still it's an academic institution. Discipline, consistency, all these things matter. So if you talk about everyday checkpoints, I start my day in office with by checking the activity or event calendar, because co-curricular and extracurricular activities are important. Academics are well planned ahead. It goes as per timetable. So activities and events, celebration of important days. So I check the activity and event calendar first, then I'll go for daily routine rounds in campus. Then I'll monitor the student attendance, then staff attendance if they have adjusted the classwork or not. So if there are any meetings scheduled with professor in charges and faculty in charges of various cells, committees, forums, centers, I have to take care of those meetings. And I'm also a teacher, so I take a course or two every semester. So I take care of those classes also. So coming to long run, we always believe in sustenance. So it's not a 1 day game or 2 day game. It has a this institution, Narayana Engineering College, Gudur, has a very bright future, and the students living in this district rely on this institution for quality education. So we only believe in maintaining sustenance. So sustenance can only be brought by involving stakeholders. So we involve stakeholders through various collaborative activities, linkages, MOUs. We also involve our alumni to help the budding engineers in various issues. Especially if we talk about MOUs, linkages, and collaboration with the industry or other academical institutions, they're mostly related to guest lectures or helping our students in projects, helping our students to have industrial visits, internships, all these things. So in long run, it is sustenance. In short run, it is day-to-day goals. We have to make sure that the entire entire day is utilized properly, entire period is utilized properly. That's what we do on a daily basis.
Okay, sir. So what do you think is the greatest strength of Narayana Engineering College, Gudur?
Strengths, we do a lot of SWOT analysis. We have IQAC cell, we do a lot of SWOT analysis. Our strength is always the same. Our experience in education sector, as I mentioned you, Narayana Group is into education field for the past 44 years, from KG to PG level. In various fields, we have medical, dental, physiotherapy, pharmacy, engineering college, nursing college. We have schools, we have +2 colleges, we have +2 junior colleges, intermediate colleges, we have coaching centers. So our success is proven already. So if we talk about strengths, our strength is experience in education sector, our strength is our faculty, our strength is our facilities, our strength is understanding the students, their requirements, our strength is understanding parents, their needs. Every parent wants their son or daughter to shine. So we take we put maximum effort. Our teachers will take enough care so that we meet the expectations of parents, and in the process we don't pressurize or stress the student. Okay. And last but not least, we understand the industry requirements of human resource. So we train the students accordingly so that industry gets the employable ready skills candidates by the end of the 4th year program. So our strength is preparing students with employable ready skills, and industry will induct them immediately after graduation. That's our strength.
Okay, sir. You have so many strengths. Sir, because of the pandemic, many things have changed. So what changes have you observed in the different courses preferred by the students opting?
Yeah, maybe if somebody watches this recorded video after a decade or two, they may not be uh, understanding what is pandemic. So let me put it in brief. Where we were in first wave of COVID-19, then followed by second wave. So almost all 18 months we were working from home and we were teaching virtually, and we only invited students to campus for conducting practical examinations or practical classes or end examinations. So rest of the things were all virtual, work from home, learn from home. So it has changed the education sector and the many other sectors. So your question is related to pandemic. I'll keep focused to that. So right now there is huge shortage of spare parts, huge shortage of semiconductors, huge shortage of power. So it's the problem is just tip of an iceberg. When things were going on normal, so there was no problem. When certain industries were forced to shut down, you cannot get back on track. So you cannot generate power without coal. You cannot produce coal overnight. So you cannot produce semiconductors overnight. You need to have a proper infrastructure, proper input material. You need to have consistent power supply. So there was a brief gap for say 3 months in Western countries during the first wave. Everything was closed. Nobody had any idea or clue what's the damage COVID-19 is going to cause. So now during this period, most of the people who are working from home, especially people who are related to IT industry, all the physical facilities were closed, all the transportation was closed, stopped. So people movement, material movement is restricted or completely stopped. So that impact carried forward into 2021. So we are facing this crisis of shortage of spare parts, semiconductors, power, so all these things. So now people spend a lot of time with their gadgets, working from home. Certain things are easy through IT and ITES services. Rest of the 90% of the things are physical. They need material movement. They need manpower involvement. So these 90% things got affected. So now, if you see America, several trucks are being kept in fields just due to lack of, they were built, but they don't have a chip to run that car. Several phones are kept on hold. So several new releases are also kept on hold. So no hardware, so no software. So no software, no bugs, no updates. So now people started looking towards that 90%, what is keeping the software industry running. That is the civil engineering. Without mining, without exploring geographically, you cannot have all the minerals and raw material. Then the metallurgy guys, you have to convert ores into metals so that you can make phones or you can make semiconductors for. So it's a domino effect. And then if you don't have power, you cannot do any of these three. Okay. And then the electronics, if you don't have ICs, if you don't have the components, you cannot build the gadgets. So it's a dominoes effect. So after 18 months, so IT industry is facing the challenge. So till 18th month, they were happy. They were doing their jobs. Now there are no bugs because software is not, new gadgets are not coming out. So it's a difficult phase the entire industry is going through. So most probably 90% cases with my interaction with the industry experts and industry stalwarts, they said that people are looking towards civil, mechanical and electrical, electronics engineering because everything is not IT. Okay, everything is not IT, yes. Still manufacturing, production, service industry, marketing industry, all these things are physical. So now people are looking towards the core industry.
Nishad, that's a very good conclusion you got there, linking everything. So, do you think the engineer needs multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary knowledge to drive their career forward? And why do you think that 2021 engineering graduates are unable to distinguish between these technology, IT, and ITS jobs? So, what might be the reason do you think?
I would like to break your question into two parts. First, multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary knowledge is required for to take their career forward. I'll break it into two questions because it's a very complex question. So I would like to break it into two parts. So coming to multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, 40 years back, there was no computer science engineering department at all. So it evolved from electronics communication and electrical and electronics engineering department. If you go to Western countries, you still have electrical and computers engineering department. You don't have computer science engineering department at all. The reason is the first software revolution happened in 1990 or so, 1960. So IBM launched its first computer, Digital Computer Systems launched its computer. So and there was huge demand for engineers. So India is always supplying 25% of global engineers requirement. So every year, if there is 1,000 engineers required, India supplies 250 engineers to the world. So India is exporting intellectuals, engineers and doctors to the other parts of the world. So in 1960, the first generation of engineers went to USA or UK or European countries to work as software professionals, or simply we used to call them engineers. So in 1970, the PC came into picture. Once again, IBM brought this PC, so everybody started buying PCs. So there was huge demand for developing applications like Word, Banner. So many applications were developed in 1970s. So the second generation of engineers went abroad from India. All of them were electrical, electronics, mechanical, civil guys. Then once again, the third generation went in 1985. The Windows OS came into picture. A lot of engineers were required. Microsoft Windows came in 1985. So the third generation of engineers went abroad from India. Whoever have graduated from IITs, NITs, universities, or affiliated colleges, many of them went to Western countries or abroad in 1985. Then came the fourth generation engineers went in 2000. We generally call it as Y2K problem. Once again, in 2000, very few seats were there in computer science engineering. So many of them, civil, mechanical, electrical and electronics and electronics and communication guys went abroad and solved this Y2K problem. So now it's almost all 60 years. If you take the first generation people went abroad, it's 60 years. The fourth generation is 20 years. So all these four generation people are back. They're retired or they're going through mid-profession crisis. So these guys, they are doing a lot of mentoring. They're doing a lot of hand-holding. So now they're back. They're core engineers. They worked in IT industry or IT-enabled service industry. They know the Western countries' requirement. They are back. They are helping academic institutions, universities, MHRD, AICT. They are part of policy making. They are making the rules and guidelines. So now a lot of inputs are coming, engineering inputs. So it's not just programming or coding. Now they're talking about making the, systems. So now people started understanding why multidisciplinary knowledge is required, interdisciplinary knowledge is required. So now they started understanding we don't need just programmers. We need people who build systems. Say for example, an ATM machine runs on software, but it's a machine. Somebody has to build it. A Sortex machine in rice mill runs on image processing. It's not just software, it's a machine. So it is amalgamation of hardware and software produces the results. Nobody buys software and nobody wants to keep software in CDs and pen drives at home. They want to install it in a system. They want to use it for simplifying their job. So say for example, let's take another example. Let's take vending machines. If you want to buy Pepsi or Coke in airport, you drop a coin, the bottle comes out, or you pay through some digital transfer, or use credit card or debit card, you can buy Coke. So this vending machine is combination of software and hardware. Somebody has to build that machine, and software engineer has to write a program for that. So I hope you understood. For the past 20 years, things have changed because of lack of awareness, but now the first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation software engineers who migrated to Western countries for working in software industry, they came back. They are sharing all their knowledge because basically they are electrical, mechanical, civil, electronics, and communication engineers. Worked in IT industry, they have vast knowledge. That knowledge is coming back into Indian education system, and now people are realizing that multidisciplinary knowledge comes from hybrid branches. Like electrical electronics is a hybrid branch, electronics communication is a hybrid branch. So already these software subjects are already taught in these branches. So there is a lot of enthusiasm in electrical and electronics and communication engineering right now, because everything is electronics, and people understand everything has to be produced and manufactured in a factory. So people are attracted to mechanical now, and people understand farming, mining, all these things, building, construction. So all these things are civil. So now people started thinking about civil. So that is the reason why people need interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary knowledge to become to drive their career forward. And coming to the second part of your question, graduates are unable to differentiate between engineering, technology, IT, and ITES jobs. Yes. So students are basically they're just taking education as a what you call eligibility for applying a job. So any job notification, if you see any job notification, they'll ask science graduate with first class or engineering graduate from any discipline first class. So people got accustomed to that job ads. So they're literally taking engineering as a degree, and they consider it as eligible to apply for that job, but they're not bothered about skills. We at Narayana Engineering College take care of all these issues. We guide the students properly. We have mentoring system, we have career guidance cell, we have career counseling, we have a exclusive training cell for training the students. So we don't have such issues, but generally my experience from the colleges which have poor administration or management or under untrained faculty, so there the students are not getting enough exposure. So in our case there is no problem, but I'm talking about in general. Whatever I'm talking, it's not about Narayana Engineering College Gudur students. So first thing is, students are targeting a job. They don't want to become engineers. They are targeting a recruiter. Say for example, they want to crack TCS NQT or TCS Ninja or TCS CodeVita, or they want to crack Infosys InfiniQ or Wipro Elite. So that or AMCAT or NACTech or eLitmus or SEAT conducted by freshersworld.com. They are targeting a recruitment test. They don't want to become engineer. They are not choosing any domain, any area of interest, or they don't want to become subject matter expert. They are just targeting a recruiter. They want to get a job. So this is where the students are unable to decide whether they are graduates or engineers. And since they are targeting a recruiter, most of the recruiters are IT solution providers, and they work, 90% of them work in ITES. Only 10% jobs are in IT sector. 90% are in IT enabled services. So people don't have any idea on what platform they are going to work. They don't have choice. If they get selected, they'll be put in a project wherever there is vacancy. So this is where the problem is coming. They're not selecting the employer. They're just selecting a recruitment process. They're going through it. So that's what I personally feel. We were discussing about why students are unable to differentiate between engineering and technology, or graduates, science graduates and engineering graduates, or IT and ITS jobs, it is because they don't uh, read anymore. They don't look back. So engineering is having 4,000 years history, and a lot of things changed in 400 years, especially in last 40 years, from 1980 or so. Things have changed very rapidly. We shifted from manual to mechanical in a span of maybe 60 or 70 years. Then from mechanical, in the sense machines does the job, we have to put very minimal effort. So now we have automatic machines. Since 90s we have automatic machines. Then we have shifted from automatic to autonomous now. So very few are autonomous machines. So people don't understand all this process. They just want to get a job. So the role of engineer is very exclusive, and the task they perform is very exclusive. So people don't understand this. That is the reason why they're unable to differentiate between engineering and technology. They're unable to distinguish between IT and ITES jobs. So they're falling in a kind of trap. Once they join the job, then they realize that it's the technology, it's the engineering part, it's the IT job or ITES job. Then they're not prepared for that. Then they're switching the jobs. But fortunately, our students, we have very good infrastructure. We clearly tell the students about career paths in the induction programs and orientation programs. We give the names of all sectors. Say engineers are needed in agriculture sector, engineers are needed in healthcare sector, because all CT scan, MRI scan, ECG, all X-ray machines are have to be made by engineers, designed by engineers, serviced by engineers. So we ask these students to choose the sector or the area. So we give them proper guidance. So in our case, whatever I've said earlier, it is not the difficulty of Narayana Engineering College. We take proper care of that. So we tell them about personal care. We tell them about different industries, automobile sector, aviation sector. We conduct a lot of programs. So student have prior information, student have prior idea. So what are the sectors, where they can go, what they can achieve as an engineer. And coming to ITES job, so we also conduct a lot of pre-placement talks. Even before pre-placement talk, we sensitize our students about the JD. We generally call it as job description. So we take care of all these things well in advance. We encourage our students to sit in library, spend some time with books. We have dedicated library hour in our timetable. So we have more than 2 or 3 TB of video lectures from NPTEL. We have digital library, we have digital resources, e-resources. So we encourage the students to go through all this history and understand what they can do in future. Okay, so that's how the students are confused with engineering and technology. Now we address that at Narayana Engineering College, Guru.
Yes, sir. That's a very good insights you are giving on this multidisciplinary international knowledge. So, why today's engineer's career different from their profession? Because I'm from mechanical engineering. I'm doing something else. So, what do you think is the crisp point where the difference is made? So, and how do you Narayana College make sure that this gap can be filled?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Sumant. Right now, the students' aim is the students are getting the basic guidance from their neighbors. So most of the people are familiar with half a dozen names. Earlier, people used to talk about HMT. When I was starting my career way back in 95 or so, people were talking about getting job in HMT, Alvin, Kelvinator. So these were the names then. So these companies are gone. There was a TV called as Dianora. So there was then it shifted to Grunding, Thomson. So So many things have changed over years. Now people are familiar with half a dozen names from your neighborhood. So your parents yourself will get accustomed to hearing those names. So say for example, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HP, HCL. Earlier it was Satyam, now it is Tech Mahindra. People are familiar with these names. If you say anything else other than this, they'll not consider it as a good job. This is the general understanding of the society. So whatever society's understanding is the same, the student is coming into engineering with that influence. So they want to work for their brother or sister or neighbor is working for TCS. So their dream job is also to land in TCS. They don't look anywhere else because they take certain people as role models. They take certain people as inspiration. They are not setting Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or Steve Jobs as their role model. They are setting their neighbors, their brothers, their sisters, their relatives as role models. So their aim is to land in TCS or Infosys or Satyam. They're not looking, they're not seeing the scope of getting employed. They're not looking at earning top dollars. So they are restricting themselves. So now we have at Narayana Engineering College, Gudur, we give them sufficient exposure. We tell them that there are companies, product-based companies, which have very few employees but earns in millions of dollars. So there are service-based companies like TCS who have 55,000 or 45,000 employees sitting throughout India, and they get the very minimal salary. So we inform about all these things. And already I told you, it's all about manufacturing sector. It is about production. It is about giving service. IT services are definitely, they'll help engineers to do their job. They'll simplify the job. But the final result is you have to do physical things. Say, for example, you can see where the milk is coming from. We have one of the Europe's biggest company in Gudur, Tirumala Dairy, run by Lactose, an European company. We have one of the Asia's largest foundry in Gudur, Nelcast, supplying forged products to almost all the automobile companies. So we have tie-up with all these companies. We have got enough exposure in that area, and we use that knowledge to inform the students that they have to choose the branch wisely. Mechanical engineer, we give them all the possibilities. We show them all the possible paths. So they can go into aviation industry. Who is going to manufacture the hull of an aircraft, hull of a ship? So it's a mechanical engineer. They have to use the necessary software. In similar manner, civil engineer, structural design, they can use Tekla. Mechanical engineer also can use Tekla. It is a IT enabled service. So civil engineer's job, mechanical engineer's job is simplified by using the software. We show them all the paths. So foundry, forging, all these things are mechanical. We give them course by course. This course is useful in this profession. This course has scope to get job in this profession. Say for example, welding. Welding is a very big industry. We have course in welding. We tell them the applications. We tell them the scope of getting job in welding industry. How many companies are there? All these things. Because we use ICT, our lectures are very well planned. We utilize the 50 minutes of time not only to teach the syllabus, but we teach content beyond syllabus to our students. We bridge the gap between academia and industry using this classroom spare time. We also conduct show a lot of applications through videos, so that the remote rural area students coming from different parts. We have all levels of students in our college, so all of them get enough exposure. It's not that we don't allow the students to take their dream job. We guide them properly. It is up to the student to choose the path. Okay, so right now engineers are facing that problem, but Narayana Engineering College, Gudur students are properly guided, exposed.
Yes, sir. You have a lot of experience in guiding the students. So what do you suggest to the upcoming aspiring students? And why do you think only few are successful? And what makes the difference between success and not? And why engineers smart as well as hardworking?
That's a very good question. So I'd like to put it in a different way. Say, for example, I'm a teacher, so it's a habit. So I drag the topic, I elaborate it, like I teach it to any student. I would like to tell you the same. So smart and hardworking. See, now things have changed. You want to, as I told you earlier, we shifted from manual to mechanical, mechanical to automatic, automatic to autonomous. So you are just adding brain to existing machine. You're not creating anything new. So student has to understand that if you want to make any system autonomous in 2021, so what you have to do is you have to know how people used to do it 40 years back, how people used to do it 20 years back, how people are doing now, and how people are expected to do in future. Okay, this is where you have to do hard work, now smart work. It is not easy to make an autonomous system which thinks on its own, which learns, which takes decisions. It's not so easy to make such a system. So you have to write a program, you have to allow it to train, you have to allow it to learn, then you allow it to take its own decisions. So then you have a full-fledged autonomous system. So 2021 engineers, they have to be both hardworking and smart. They must be doing both the things. They have to deal with this automation, autonomous industry. AI is growing by leaps and bounds. Every machine must have its own brain. Every machine must think on its own, take its own decisions. It must not wait for a human being to turn on its switch, give commands, or write code for how to work. It must do on its own. So that's the future. So 2021 engineers, they must be smart and hardworking.
So what is about Narayan Engineering College that others might not know? So only those who are working over there, those who have studied over there would know. So which would you like to showcase to the world?
Okay, there is absolutely nothing I can say that nobody knows. All the information is on our website. We have a very good transparent system. Whatever we do for the benefit of students or for the benefit of society, everything is on our website. And whatever activities we conduct, it's all posted on our social media. We don't hide anything. All our practices are very transparent. They're all tested, tried for the past 44 years. They're all proven successful. So we follow this success mantra. But people don't have time for reading the content on internet, especially the new aspiring students who want to join engineering courses. They don't have time. Their parents don't have time because they have to earn to pay the fees. So I'll keep it sharp and crisp for the sake of the students and parents, those who don't have time to go through our website. And we have a very good governing body. The college is governed by a very good governing body. All are experts, all are experienced. And then our academic council is with stalwarts in academics and from different walks of life. So we have a very good academic council. Then coming to board of studies, our board of studies is full of subject matter experts, subject experts. So our syllabus is set according to latest requirements. So this is about administration and management. We have experienced HODs and principals in our college. We give almost all equal weightage to curricular and co-curricular, and then we give 20% weightage to extracurricular activities. Coming to curricular, it is whatever is mentioned in syllabus. Coming to co-curricular, we have seminars, webinars, we have workshops, we have value-added courses, certificate courses. We conduct all these things for the welfare of students. We encourage the students to go for internships, take many projects in industry, take real problems for project works. We have technical clubs as part of co-curricular, we encourage the students to join clubs as per their interests. Say, for example, we have data science club, we have coders club, we have circuits club. So this is what we do for co-curricular, because you have to get into real world, you have to get into industry, you have to solve the problems, you have to uh, uh, create products for your company, create solutions for your clients. So we expose the students to such practices through co-curricular activities. Coming to extracurricular activities, we creativity is not taught. Okay, taste is not taught, so it has to come through practices. So we encourage students to take up different hobbies, cultural hobbies, or hobbies that nourish the creative part of the brain. We have sports and games, all this, we take care of all these things. So this is what is about. Coming to exposing the students, we have mandatory one industrial visit per semester, so student will be exposed to 8 industries. If a course requires field trip or field visit to see the subject in its original state, say for example, a civil engineer wants to know what is pile foundation, we'll take the students to site and give field demonstration or a field visit for that particular course, that is over and above the regular industrial visits. And we also have career competency development. If the student is interested to get into TCS, they have to go through the TCS recruitment process. If the student wants to get into Infosys InfyTQ, they have a selection process. So we train our students in psychometry, aptitude, reasoning, soft skills, technical skills. Technical skills means C++, Python coding languages. And if the student gets shortlisted in first round or first round, so then he will go for second round. We'll have specific training for second round selected candidates also. So we will not leave students on their own. We guide them through so that they get selected. So this is what we do at Narayana Engineering College on a daily basis. And most importantly, we encourage the students to explore various articles and understand what is the state of art of any field they have chosen. Before working on any project, we ask them to look back, do the literature survey or case study or research, and then publish their findings in reputed journals. This is all another culture which is being maintained consistently in Narayana Engineering College. These are some of the highlights what we do at Narayana Engineering College. Because it's a interview, we have time restriction, I cannot elaborate everything.
Okay, sir. Those are a lot of things which you have given as an input. So you have given a lot of things. What do you think some of the best practices at Narayana College Gudu, and which makes it far apart from other colleges? You have mentioned many things. What makes it so much different from other colleges?
See, we have first year is many subjects are common for all the engineers. So engineering is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. So first year is common to all the engineering branches. Everybody must learn drawing. Everybody must get exposed to electrical and electronics basic fundamentals, because the world is running on electrical and electronics. They must know the basic mechanical things, because everything is mechanical. So even if you invent a door lock which can be turned on and off from your mobile, but still there must be a latch which must physically move. So student must know basics of mechanical. So all these things. So we have a separate freshman engineering department to address all these needs, prepare the students for their engineering career. So from second, third, fourth year, they'll shift into their core branch. If he is an ECE guy, he'll go into ECE branch from second year. In that branch, we have a mentoring system. We allot 20 students for each mentor, and we have a separate counseling cell in Narayana Engineering College. We talk with students once in 15 days and on need basis. So academic counseling starts with attendance. Okay, If student is irregular, he'll not learn consistently. So we take care of attendance first. Then next thing is teacher must be consistent. So teacher prepares lecture schedules well in advance, and a teacher plans the 50 minutes lecture well in advance, so teacher utilizes the time perfectly. So the interaction with students goes seamlessly the entire semester. So there are many things I would like to stress on. We have induction program, we have orientation program, through which we give foundation to the courses, because each and every course is different in engineering. Up to 10th standard, you'll have the subjects same. Only you'll be changing from 5th standard to 6th standard. Still you'll have science, maths, English subjects. But in engineering, when you change from one semester to another semester, the subject names changes, the domain changes, the field changes. So there are prerequisites for each course. So each course prerequisites have to be taught prior. So we conduct a bridge course. We prepare the students to take that course with a happy face. We cannot teach everything in say 48 hours or 50 hours as per curriculum. So we take additional classes to bridge the gap in curriculum and academia and industry. So all these are best practices we do. Next thing is, we don't conduct namesake events, namesake programs, namesake for the sake of media. We plan the events with a proper title, with a proper agenda. We set the rules, guidelines for each and every program. We inform the students well in advance. So students will plan and participate in the programs and then learn from that participation. We allow the students to do mistakes and learn from those mistakes. So these are the best practices. So until and unless you don't, the student don't understand the purpose of an event. Say for example, we conduct startup pitching contests or mock interviews. We conduct a drill to prepare resumes, workshop to prepare resumes. So these are the places where student can do mistakes and they get proper guidance, and then they correct their mistakes.
Oh, that's a very good practices you have in your college. So what are the role of online and digital platform in promotion of institution? So you have so many things at your college. So how do you think these will help you in the promotion of your college?
Yeah, we at Narayana Engineering College, it's a part of Narayana group of institutions. It's a very big institution. We have branches in more than 13 states, schools, junior +2 colleges, coaching centers. But professional colleges are centered in Andhra Pradesh, Nellore. So since our group is a very big group and it's very old group, we have separate IT division, and they take care of all the websites, hosting the websites. And we have separate servers for inventory management. Narayana Group, if you want to place an order, if a teacher needs, I'm a teacher, I need chalk piece, I will raise the indent for a box of chalk piece. HOD approves it, then principal. So the stores procures it from central stores of Narayana Educational Institutions. This is how things go. So we have a very good IT enabled services infrastructure. We have student information system. We our own software. The Narayana Group developed its own software. We monitor students' attendance. If a student is absent for a particular period, SMS is automatically sent to parent number. If a student writes examination and his result is declared, SMS is sent automatically. We maintain staff biometric attendance through this website. We maintain our inventory through this website. So we are having two different platforms. And next thing is coming to social media. Many people are on different platforms. Say for example, some are on Instagram, some are on Twitter, some are on Facebook. So we have a separate professor in charge, faculty in charge, student volunteer to post the content on Facebook. So this is how we do it at Narayana Engineering College. We consider website as a window to the outside world so that they can peep into our college and see what's happening in our college. We consider our Facebook page as uh, a window into what's happening in our college. So this is how we take care of it.
Oh, I guess it takes almost care of everything about your college. So, you have been an educational leader for so long, and there are students beside you almost all of the time. So, what do you think are the roles of an educational leader and a student they must accomplish so that I mean, long-term goals will be reached?
Yes, it's a very tough question. We try to discuss about this a lot in various meetings at managerial level and administrative level, because every batch is a new batch. See, we're going to get 20, 21, 22 new batch in another 5 or 6 days. Now web counseling is going on. The generation is new, the batch is new. The current students, the second year, third year, fourth year students, we're training them. Whatever we are doing here, they're familiar with our practices. But the new students are they're coming from +2 colleges. They're not familiar with the engineering college practices or the college education system. We generally call as higher educational institutions, HEIs. So they are not familiar with HEIs. They are coming from schools. They are coming from +2 colleges. We generally call it as intermediate. So they are coming from there. So they don't have all these cells, committees, forums. They are not familiar with student involvement in these cells, committees, forums. They don't volunteer to conduct activities. So many things are there. So it is very difficult to make the new students to get aware about our practices, make the students get into the groove. So this is where our experience comes into picture. We have induction program and orientation program dedicated for that. We make sure that students get into track as early as possible in a very short time, so that the process of becoming a great engineer begins immediately when they join college. This is what we do as an education leader.
Yes, sir. Those are some of the good sides which you are giving. So you have been a faculty of teaching students and engineers, and also you have been mentoring them, guiding them. So do you think engineers must have to take a calculated risk? I mean, they should be prepared for adverse risk outcomes, right?
Yes.
So,
It's a very good.
what do you think?
Very good question, Sumant. I always allocate 1 hour for this calculated risk during induction program or orientation program for students. From day one, the student has to understand that until and unless you don't take risk, there is always a risk of a flight crashing. There is always a risk of a rocket falling into ocean rather than putting the satellite into orbit. There is always a risk that your rocket never takes off because of some malfunction of some sensor. So you have to postpone your launching of your rocket because of weather conditions. There is always risk. There is always doubt. There is always so engineering is all about addressing all those things. So there are millions of parts. Say your cell phone has 70 parts. To keep it in short, your cell phone has 70 parts. If you break it down, each part, there are multiple parts in it. So if you take a car, there are more than 1 million parts in a car. So now if you take electrical car, it has the number of parts has reduced to maybe 1 lakh or 2 lakhs. See how things are changing, but there is always risk. People want to fill the fuel anywhere they want. They don't want to get restricted by the charge in their battery. They don't want to get restricted. They don't want their movement to be restricted by the SOC, state of charge, in their battery. So, but Elon Musk took a risk. He has taken the electric vehicle industry forward. Few people competed with Elon Musk. They have spent hundreds and thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, but their cars never see the daylight. They're all bankrupt. They're working for some other company now. But Elon Musk is successful. And Elon Musk is investing all his earnings back into the development. So this is what we call calculated risk. When you become successful, you have to keep the customers happy. So your earnings will go back into development. So a risk is, say for example, student have three options. We generally call it as in outcome-based education, triple E. First one is education. Anybody joins engineering BTech degree. For joining MTech, you need BTech. So first E is education, second E is employment. Anybody joins BTech for getting employed. And third E is entrepreneurship. Now we call it a startup So if anybody joins engineering because they want to make products and then release them in markets. So outcome-based education is any student must get into higher education or get an employment or become an entrepreneur. These are the three possible outcomes. There is no other outcome for engineer. So calculated risk is people are flocking for employment in reputed companies, mass recruiting companies like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL. These are all mass recruiting companies. So people are not going for entrepreneurship because there is risk involved. So whatever you are invested, it may go waste because your competitor may release a better product. So if you don't fight for releasing a good product, so definitely, obviously, your company is going to lose. If you don't start a company to make product, you're never going to raise the bar. So this is what is calculated risk. Next is MTech. Your batchmate is employed, he is earning, you have joined MTech, so you will be a sitting duck in a research institution for next 2 years. You will not be earning, you will be still studying, the other guy is gaining experience. So this is calculated risk. So how you are going to use your master's degree? The other guy is earning, you are still learning. So after master's degree, once again you have to find employment. So what level of employment you are going to get into, how much you are going to earn, how your higher level education is going to fix. These are the risks, calculated risks you have to take. Don't take the low risk things. Higher earnings come from taking higher risks. So we clearly inform the students about the risks in taking jobs. Say for example, testing. I'm talking about physical testing, not software testing. You have to crash a car to see how it performs. Okay. So if you send your car to crash test, your company reputation may go down because crash test results may be bad to worst or worse or good to excellent. So if it is good to excellent, it's okay. Bad to worse means your company reputation is going down. People may not buy your automobile because of fear. So instead of living in fear, you must design the product to pass the test. You must set standards for yourself before doing such things. Okay. So this is what I feel personally.
Okay, sir. Looks like we got it the end of the interview. So that's all for today, sir. And you have given so many insights into the education sector and how the students should calculate risk and anything. So I guess we'll be meeting once again for these kind of interviews. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much. You have asked many questions that are not familiar to parents or students. They're all good questions. Hope this interaction session will be useful for parents, students, and faculty members from other colleges to know what's happening in Narayana Engineering College, Gudur. In short, we are a very consistent college. We take care of academics. We groom our students to be industry-ready, employable students. So once they go out, they can directly join a company and start working. They don't need any further training. They are very well exposed. They are trained like born to become engineers, and they are equipped with all technologies. Be it softwares, electrical engineers are trained in electrical softwares as well as it depends upon their career interest. If they want to go into IT, we train them in IT sector. If they want to go into ITES, we train them in ITES by teaching them electrical softwares like Moose, by teaching them softwares like Xilinx, Mentor Graphics, whatever field they want to go, we train them in respective softwares. And if they want to become core engineer for by designing power systems or transmission lines or control systems, we also teach them the basic mathematics behind it and how to do it in a old fashion, and by using modern softwares like MATLAB, ETAP, PSCAD. So we train students in whatever field they want to go, whatever area they want to go. We also train our students to realize their ideas through mathematical modeling, rapid prototyping, and seeing the results in a very short period, whether their designs are viable, uh, successful. So this is what we do in our college on a daily basis. Hope this insight is uh, will serve as a basic information about Narayana Engineering College today. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.